Hello guys, this is Avcoor, and this is my last video in a series of classes. The last class we're going to talk about is the healer class. I want to say first and foremost, this is a very solid class. Pretty much a necessity on most teams, but later on as we get down the road, it will become less important in PvP as rush boxes will become the norm. So let's just get into it. So for the first thing I want to talk about as far as stats go with the healer class is that HP is more important than you think. HP is one of the most important stats you can have on your healer because healers are generally targeted by the computer. They're also targeted by players who want to destroy the core of your team because when you lose a healer in PvP, it's almost guaranteed that you're going to lose the match because it becomes a DPS rush. And if you lose the healer, then the other DPSs on your opponent's team become more potent because everything they attack will sustain that damage. It won't go away. So when you look at HP, consider that one of the most important stats for your healer. Also, another important stat for your healer is your magic attack because healing scales off your magical attack. Therefore, it's an important stat because with this, your healers can actually maintain. How can I say this? They can actually maintain a defensive presence by healing. Sometimes the DPS is strong enough to overcome a weak healer because they'll deal damage, and the healing that you do cannot overcome the damage that they dealt. So therefore, you're at a deficit, and you're eventually you will lose. So magic attack is super important. Dump stats are attack and concentration. Concentration is not as important for healers as they want to focus on their defensive stats. Magic defense and physical defense are important. As you look at our healer here, her defense is B and her magic defense is S. So that's actually pretty solid stats. That's why I think Avia is a really great healer because she has a solid stat spread. What I don't like is the fact that she has like really low magic attack at B, but that's okay because with runes you can get past this. And let's talk about the runes real quick. The most important runes you can have on your healer, which I don't have on Avia at this moment, because I switch her runes out with another guy here. Where is he at? Where's my other guy here? Okay. This rune is the most important rune to have on a healer as it increases the healing that your healers deal. But there are other alternatives to this. Clock is actually good. So is Magic Eye. So is Magic Eye is really good. And so is the bird one. As increases in magic attack actually help the potency of your healers. And healers generally come with two types of equipment. They come with this, the whatever instrument, or they come with the healing staff. Both are really good, but these generally provide increased healing, which is pretty good for healers. So we'll go into the website and we'll end it there because this is really important when we look at the healers and what makes good healers different from bad healers. And you'll see that Zlong Games has done a real good job with the healer class. I just wish they put a little more time into it. But anyways, let's travel. So with healers, as you can see, it's a limited selection, but this is a pretty darn good selection. I think as far as the variation in classes go, we actually have a solid setup with the healers. There's one that, of course, stands out from the rest of them, and we'll talk about her at the end. But I want to mention even the R healer real quick. Future King or whatever they call her, her prospects as a healer look low, but overall she's pretty darn decent for an R healer. So increased healing done by a certain percentage. This is one of the passives that you want to see. You want to have a healer that has ways to increase the healing that they do outside of runes. At the end of the turn, all allies within certain tiles of Future King will be granted a buff, which increases their defense. This is not a bad healer. When you look at Future King, she's not that bad. Um, Honestly, she's pretty good, but she's totally outshined by the other healers in this category. But these are the certain aspects you want from your healer. Also, you like for them to cleanse debuffs. So let's go into Hazel and Lohanes. So Hazel is actually really good. Her PvE prospects are pretty high. When not affected by debuff, increase healing done by 20%. You always want a way for your healers to increase the healing that they deal. At the end of action, recover HP of all allies within 3 tiles by 0.5 percentage of your max magical attack. This is super important because you want healers to passively heal outside of their active turn of healing. That increases your opportunity to heal, and sometimes when your healer is silenced or blocked, they still have ways to heal your team. So this is super important, and it really makes Hazel actually a solid healer. She has a bunch of buffs and stuff, but at her core, that ability actually pretty much makes her a solid healer. So we'll go into Lohanes. This is the main healer on my team, and there's a couple of reasons why this dude is good. One thing that is kind of making him weak is the fact that he doesn't have increased healing in his kit, but he reduces magical damage. And this is another aspect of healers. They actually function really well as damage bait units, magical damage bait units, just as good, if not better, than the wizard class themselves. So keep that in mind when you build this class, that they actually can bait. And a two healer comp is high in demand at higher levels of content. So you would like to have another use for your healer outside of healing, or you're just wasting turns. So another thing is you always want your healer to buff because they're a support unit. Not only do you want them to heal, but you want them to buff the unit. And he has a passive buff in his kit that when he heals, he actually automatically puts a buff on a unit. If he heals multiple units, they'll get the same buff, which is reduced damage taken in battle. But it's not like reduced damage taken if you get hit by AoE. So keep that in mind when you use this character. That is that is a shortcoming, but his AoE heals are pretty awesome. Okay, so let's look at Avia. Avia is actually one of the best healers in the game, and she comes for free, which is so cool. Allies within 2 tiles of Avia deal increased damage with combo attacks, additional attacks, and counter attacks. This is super important, as this is one of those core buffs that keep your party going. You'll be surprised how well it combines with her other skills in her kit. And 3 of the lowest HP allies within 2 tiles of Avia will get healed by her after she uses the skill. This is super important, but I hate the fact that it's conditional based on the skill, but these are the things that you want your healer to do. So with me, I increased her magic attack in order to increase her healing, which she actually scales really well. Because sometimes she attacks for me, but when you look at her overall unique passive, it does everything. It does half of the stuff that you want your healer to do. It does buff. It's a passive buff, so it can't get buff cleansed. It's just positional buff, where as long as you're in certain tiles, your damage will increase. So that's pretty cool. And she has passive healing after she uses a skill, which kind of makes her more dependent on skills. But when you think about it, she has a constant heal skill with no cooldown, so it works pretty well. So, uh, really great healer. I'm using her constantly. I'm so glad the job they did with healers on this game. Well, we're gonna go to one healer that people say is weak, but she's pretty solid. People say Alicia is a weak healer for the simple fact that there's other healers that can do the same job that you're asking her to do. But I beg to differ. First of all, she's dark. And in her kit, she has the magical effect of increasing healing done. So you can never overlook that. And when using the skill on an ally, grants them Phantom Dream, which allows them to recover HP at the end of action, which is super clutch. So I hate the fact that people derp Alicia, but she's actually one of the best healers in the game. And and you can't listen to what everybody says because I played games for a long time, and you'll be shocked when people start experimenting and start test running these characters. They'll say they suck, and then they're amazingly good. And I think that Alicia is going to be one of those units based on the simple fact she's a dark healer, which is super incredible. That means she has no elemental weakness but holy, and you can simply remove them from battle. All other units actually she'll have neutral damage against. And let's look at her stats real quick to see if she reflects the stat bonus increase. So she has magic attack at B, magic defense at B, physical defense at A. That's pretty good. Concentration at C, HP at A. That's actually pretty solid defensive stats. You got, and yeah, that's pretty solid defensive stats. Her magic attack at B is not that bad, but physical defense as at A being a healer, that's really good. And most of the holy equipment access, so that's a really good stat. Yeah, that's a really good stat spread. So yeah, that's really good. Stat spreads are important. Wow, that's really good. So let's talk about Clefairy, who is the best healer in the game, and then we'll talk about Valak, who's kind of the future where I think healers are going. So Clefairy is basically Liana. This is Liana and from Langresser, and seeing as Liana was so good, if you get this character, you got to really invest in her to the end because her end game is pretty freaking awesome. She really doesn't have many flaws. So let's look at her unique passive. This is what you want healers to have, a way to increase their magic attack or their healing, because magic attack in turn will increase the healing that you do. After using the skill, restore the HP of allies within 3 tiles by a certain percentage. That's insane. That's all allies. That's insane. So she's getting passive heals. So she heals and then she heals again. And we already know about the active game, but let's look at her stats real quick. I'll show you why she's so good. So her magic defense is S. Her concentration is B. Her physical defense is B. These defensive stats you want to be at least B or above. Her magic attack is B, which is okay. When you have S magic defense, that means you can magical bait, and her HP is A. So yeah, that's the stat line that you want. And she has so many AOE heals, and this is pretty much what you want your healer to be. This is the apex of where healers stand right now. That's why I'm kind of sad I don't have her. But when I go global, I'm definitely going to get her on global. Now, Valak represents the future of healers. And you can see by her kit that, yeah, we're getting there to the future. Start the battle with 4 stacks of Star Fragment on self. After casting a skill on the ally, grant them Power of Life for 2 turns. Which before the battle, remember that. Before the battle, recover HP equal to certain percentage of magic attack. This is definitely for PvP. Because in PvP, you'll actually run into a conundrum where I want to attack somebody, but my HP is too low to duel. This is really good for wizards. This is really good for warriors. That you come into that position where I played the game enough to know that you come into this place where you fight a unit and you can't kill them, and if you can kill them, you might die because they get an extra attack. Power of Life really gets around that, so that's pretty good. Star Fragment. Increase your magic attack by a percent for each stack. And those are high percentages. That's pretty good. Lose 1 stack of the buff after you cast a skill, and if no skill cast, you gain 1 stack instead. After the enemy die, instantly gain up to 4 stacks of the buff. the buff can't be removed or stolen. That is super important. This is a really awesome healer, and this shows you Zilong's thinking when it comes to healers. That they kind of moved away from some of the typical norms that they did with healers and Landgresser and moving into a more creative approach, and it's working pretty well because this healer is super busted. And if you don't realize that, you're gonna have to play the game more to realize that. This is super good. So let's look at they don't have stats. Oh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks. But anyways, guys, healers are a super core aspect of the team, and Zilong Games actually gets that, so they gave us a slew of really great healers. Even the R healer is serviceable to like level 40 or so, and then you have the canner, but that's pretty amazing. Anyways, if you like my content, hit the like, share, subscribe button. I'll get back to you. Have a great day, and goodbye.